Right, so good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. And it's the last segment of the day. Yes, 5:35. I'm slightly late. I was never on time for school, Terry.
Hey.
Detention. Yeah, but it's the last segment. I've got my good friend James Rowe, who's hopefully going to be talking about some upcoming interviews. Hopefully, I can only ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. And we're going to be reviewing the morning live segment in regards to Sokratis, Saka, and who else was there? Who else will we talk about? Oh yes, the gentleman who scored the goal, the free kick. Can't get enough, can we? And there's a birthday I forgot to mention in the morning, but we're going to talk about this on the other side of this music intro, people. Yes, welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. It's the evening segment. It's the last segment. I had LTL, the original Godfather, with me in the morning, and we're +1 now. James, how are you, my friends?
Keeping well, thank you. Great to speak to you both again. I hope everybody's keeping well in these strange times, but great to be on again and great to see you both.
Brilliant. And of course, you guys love LTL, the original Godfather. Hello, LTL again.
Yeah, it's good to be back, and we seem to find an awful lot to talk about amongst ourselves, and tactics included, which is always the interesting part for me. I'd rather be talking about tactics and players than talking about all the stuff that's going on in the boardroom and with Stanley Kroenke. But as James has often mentioned absolutely correctly, if you don't get it right at the very top, then it's not going to happen down into the dressing room and out onto the pitch. So it's Arsenal have given us a big scope at the moment to talk about it.
Yeah, guys, make sure you subscribe to Cannon Fodder TV. Hit the bell notification button so you can receive all the latest, latest news on Cannon Fodder TV. The first bit of news that I spoke about this morning was in regard to Sokratis Papathopoulos. Apparently, there is some news, whether it's believe it or not, he's been linked to Fenerbahce, and there's been some positive talks between himself, his agent, and the club. To be honest, Terry, he played one game, I think, in the under-23s a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's very limited in his ability, but I think you're right. He's come to Arsenal maybe at the wrong side or the wrong end of his career. He's 33, 32, 33?
33, I think. I mean, they sort of brought him in to fill a gap, and he's a very, very good professional. But he's you can see the sort of pace is going now a little bit, but everything else about him very, very professional, and I wish him all the best.
Yeah. James, your thoughts on Sokratis? Any thoughts?
Well, Terry points out he came to fill a gap, but we had to pay 16 million euros to fill that gap. And 16 euros is a million euros is a lot of money. And I just hope that this January, I still see people advocating buying, as if we're building the biggest squad in the world. 500, 1,000, 2,000 players. Why not chuck it on the pile? But we've got 34 players on the books, and before we open the wallet and before we spend anything, we've got to sell. And I think we've got to sell at least between 4 and 6 if you're realistic, even at a maybe potentially cut price, trying to get them off the wages. And then instead of going out and buying yet again, why not promote the youth? You saw with Emil Smith-Rowe tremendous performance against Chelsea. It's great that he's getting the plaudits. It's well deserved, but it's also a massive hint for Arsenal now. Not only is he ready, but Arsenal have got to play him. Otherwise, they're going to lose him. It wasn't so long ago that Monaco were linked with him, and don't tell me that Monaco didn't see what he did last Saturday night. So I think he's at a crossroads at Arsenal already in his career. And if I was Arsenal, I'd be keeping him in that first team squad and in that first team environment for the rest of the season at the very least.
James, we were talking about this actually this morning. Willian and David Luiz reported sick. They were feeling unwell for the game against Chelsea. And well, Emerson Rowe, he took his chance really, really well. However, we would have seen him if Willian reported well.
I'm not sure. But you know, George Graham trusted in the youth many years ago. Arteta's got to do the same now. You know, we've only realistically got a chance of winning 2 trophies. I think it's very ambitious to think that you're going to win the FA Cup for a 15th time. So, you know, and also the Europa League, we've got to finish as high in the league as we possibly can. But we've got to streamline the squad and we've got to make some difficult choices. But unfortunately, with a fan base who are now talking about Julian Brandt from Bayer Leverkusen as if being the best thing since sliced bread. He is a very, very good player. I've spoken to a few professionals down the years that said that even at youth level, he was very technically gifted. But I just get the impression that certain members of the fan base, it's like swooning after the latest pop star. You know, like with the Beatles, and you know, they would make all the younger women go absolutely bananas by screaming. I get the impression that with certain younger members of the fan base, they do that with certain players. And now Julian Brandt is the flavour of the month. Nobody had heard of him last month. It's the same as Slobozai, who recently signed for Leipzig. Exactly the same. So they'll move on to another target in the summer, and they'll hope to gain traction for that. But I personally don't think that Bayer Leverkusen are going to do anything, because they are in the hunt for a German Cup. They're in with a chance in the Europa League as well, and they're doing very well domestically under a very good Dutch manager in Peter Bos. So I don't think they're going to do anything, and I don't think he'll be leaving Bayer Leverkusen. And I just think it's fawning over certain players, literally falling over yourselves to kind of gain traction for the next player to be somewhat in the know. But in the real world, it doesn't work like that. I mean, I've had many conversations and many correspondence from different clubs at all levels, but I refuse to put that out on Twitter or put that out on my platform because it's confidential information, and which the club has deemed a benefit to tell me. But I won't sell my soul down the river to say, oh, that's what they told me. And I do find it strange. I do find it strange at the top end that some people are willing to do that. And as someone who deals with the trust of professional players and managers in my interviews, I do find it a little bit strange, in all honesty.
Yeah. Talking about youth, again, we covered Bukayo Saka in the morning segment. A well-taken goal, Eltel. And he meant it, didn't he, Eltel?
Absolutely. He said, I saw the goalie off his line, and he was telling Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and the two of them were having a great laugh. And that Tammy guy for Chelsea, Tammy Wynette, I call him, the country singer, he started saying, you didn't mean that. And Ainsley was loving it. And the two of them, Saka and Ainsley, went off arm in arm and laughing and joking. That's what I want to see. I want to see Arsenal happy in each other's company, bring these young players through. That is the future. And as we've discussed, we have got some cracking players coming through. We haven't even seen Cottrell yet, and I reckon he's a cracking player. We've got the two centre-backs as well, Ballard and McGuinness, isn't he? Yeah. Lovely players, you know. And all right, I think one's on loan at Blackpool and the other one somewhere else. But they're both stunning players, and you know, their time will come very, very soon. So as James was saying, we don't need to keep spending silly amounts of money. You've got to do what Arsenal have done best when we've had our best teams. Pick up some players. If you have to go outside the club, pick them up when their price is low, but their potential is high. And when we had our great team we had Dixon, we had Nigel Winterburn, we had Stevie Bold, all picked up for what would be regarded as a small amount of money now. And they became stalwarts of the great Invincibles defence. So if we're going to be buying at all, it should be looking in those areas. I'm beginning to wonder, actually, what is left of our scouting network, seeing as so many people got the sack. McLintock couldn't get Brentford for the door quick enough for a start. And then they started sacking Kidgow, is it? They sacked him, and then they keep sacking and sacking. And who's left in the club? You know, worrying.
Dear me. And the last bit of segment we spoke about this morning, James, was about this chap. He turned up in some sorts on Saturday against Chelsea. And I've seen on Twitter as people not happy with his comments. He was saying, people went on and on and on about me getting a red card. And I thought, well, yeah, I'll show them. Well, you need to show that kind of, passion and drive for every single game. You can't pick and choose. You can't pick and choose. And sorry, James, and I've got to finish off. I said this to Terry this morning. For me, with Xhaka, I just cannot get past what he did in the stadium when the armband and the shirt. You've got to draw the line somewhere with these players. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Yeah.
Absolutely. But he's very lucky to play for the club still. He's very lucky to play for the club. But, I don't think he realises that. And, I just think he, like other players, are far too comfortable. And when they look back on their career, did they do enough? Have they done enough? He even had these traits at Borussia Mönchengladbach. If you're really honest, he even had these traits at Borussia Mönchengladbach. So it's not something which is uncommon. And one swallow doesn't make a summer. And I see a lot of Arsenal fans. We beat Chelsea. Yes, it was a very good result. But we've been here before, and that was after the Old Trafford win, where people were advocating that we can get top 4 and go on a good run. And we didn't win for 6 weeks. So, we've got a very difficult game tomorrow away at Brighton. And I know it sounds cliche, but you just have to take it one game at a time. That's all you can do. It's a long old season. I think lots of people forget how long the football season actually is. But, I just hope we can get through January realistically letting 4 to 6 players off the books and maybe even recalling McGuinness or Ballard from their loan spell if need be, and just streamline the squad and have an eye on what's going to happen in the summer, because people seem to forget this is not fantasy football where you can click a button and your player is gone. You're dealing with agents, you're dealing with families, you're dealing with clubs that are wanting a certain amount of money and a certain cut and sell-on fees and lots of different things. And we've got some very hard work to do in the summer, and one swallow doesn't make a summer. It's a very good result. But as I say, we've been here before, and we can be pleased with the likes of Smith Rowe, because I just hope that Arsenal realise now that, this is literally Arsenal's last chance to keep him. Because, I watched him in the Europa League against Sporting Lisbon in 2018, and he was tremendous. So he can play at European level, can also play at Premier League level. And he needs to play many, many games going forward. And if Arsenal don't do that, and Monaco come back in January, or they come back in the summer, then rightfully they'll lose him.
Yeah. Do you have any insight in regards to Florian Balogun? I know we're seeing some news flying around that he hasn't signed a contract. There was a tweet from David Ornstein saying that the two parties are in consultation, but it's most likely that Balogun will leave Arsenal at the end of his contract. Do you have any news in regards?
What I know is that Sheffield United submitted a bid in the summer, which was rejected by Arsenal. That bid was £23 million. So that's been turned down. And I heard that he's linked with Liverpool. Liverpool, if they give him the pathway to play, you can't blame him for leaving. But as Terry touched on at the start of the podcast, what I've been saying for many, many years, it starts at the top. What business receive an offer of £23 million and reject it, only to see that same player leave for nothing for following summer? So again, we're not learning. We have an owner who only sees Arsenal as an investment, a safeguarding of an investment. He's not bothered if we win. He's not bothered if we lose. He's not bothered if players leave, if players go. People talk about, he's sanctioned the Partey deal. Did he know that we didn't really need Partey? Did he know that? Did he have the bottle to say, we've already got 11 defenders. Why do we need a 12th? No, he didn't. He just let people do what they thought was right, because he's left it in the hands of other people who are also not competent, just to safeguard his investment. And unless he gets a silly money bid from the Gote or another owner, then I don't think he'll be selling. But it's very strange times, and I expect Balogun to leave, and I expect it to be very similar to Serge Gnabry, where people will once again say, "Oh, why did we let him go? Oh, he's so brilliant for Bayern Munich." But they forget that after Arsenal, he played for Werder Bremen. So he didn't go from Arsenal to Bayern Munich. He went from Arsenal to Werder Bremen, and there from Werder Bremen to Bayern Munich. So, a lot of people can be very selective with their memories. And I can see Balogun leaving in the summer. And if he gets offered the opportunity to play more first-team football, then more power to him, because that's what it's all about. It's all about playing as much as you can, as young as you can, because a career does go by in the blink of an eye. And the most important thing, particularly for young players, is that they have to play.
Yeah. Terry, do you tend to agree the situation with Balogun, that you probably end up leaving Arsenal? Yeah.
There's quite a few players now that ex-Arsenal youth players that are now, doing really well. Once they hit around about the 22, 23 age mark, they suddenly blossom. And our problem is that when they hit 20, we either say you're the sort of ready player, or we sort of allow your contract to run out, and then off you go. We're not managing that period between 20 years of age and 23. And I can remember when Leon Brady came through, and it was only when he got to about 23 that all the elements of his game came all together, and suddenly you had a world-class player. But he wasn't world-class at 19 or 20. He was talented and a good player. And many players are like this. They need that period between 20, 21, 22. And a lot of clubs are allowing these guys to go out on loan, get some good experience. Don't just send them off somewhere where they aren't going to get good experience. I know Emil Smith Rowe went to Huddersfield and really liked it there. But, we've got to choose that carefully. But keep the players on our books, even if it means that the club that are loaning him pays some of his wages and Arsenal pays some of his wages. Keep that system going, but keep these guys, because most players don't really come to fruition until maybe 22 or 23. And we seem to have a gap in the way we deal with those guys that are maybe not quite ready for a complete stretch in the first team, but we then let their contracts run down. And then we find that all over Europe, you find these very, very good players. I'm trying to think of the name of the guy. He's a Turkish background, English-born guy, and he's now playing in Germany, I think, and he's doing really, really well. And people are saying, well, why did Arsenal let you go? And we've got this too many times now. And as Ornstein has been saying, Balogun's almost certainly going. So there's almost nothing we can do now except play him. He's definitely ready. Because forwards especially it's always a good idea to play a forward when they're young, because the defenders aren't used to them. They don't know their tricks and so on. I remember Sol Campbell saying in his autobiography, he said when he was facing a new player, it was always difficult, a player he hadn't seen before, because they had all kinds of tricks and turns that he hadn't seen. But if he saw them do it once and was beaten, he was never beaten again. He filed it away. And if you look back through the history of the Premiership, you can see players coming through. I think Rooney in his first match for Everton, I think he scored a hat-trick against us. Alan Shearer, all those years ago, his first match for Southampton, he scored a hat-trick against us. And nobody knew who Shearer was. But they certainly did after that game. So whereas defenders might take a little bit longer to mature, I think it's a good idea. If you think your forward's ready, get him in there. You can go back through the history of Arsenal. You'll find forwards of 19 and 20 who've done wonderfully well. Back in 71, it was a Ray Kennedy header at the age of 20 that won Arsenal the league that year.
And look at the career that Ray Kennedy went on to have.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And the last bit of news I kind of missed that on the morning segment was this gentleman here. And if our live viewers don't know who this person is, God dare me. Heavens to Murgatroyd. Frank McLintock. Played 314 times, 26 goals. Yeah, boy, we could do with his services now, Hotel. We could do with him now, couldn't we? And
yeah,
our options for a captain right now are thin to none. Maybe Tierney, could be Tierney, maybe Holding. But
yeah.
apart from these two, who else?
Frank was 5'9", 9.5 in his socks, and he was originally a sort of a defensive midfielder, and it just transpired that we kind of needed a centre back, and he dropped back into centre back, but his play in terms of where he was going to be, he could read the forwards coming towards him. His positional play was top quality, and he had this never say die spirit. And I've got a friend who runs a pitch and putt place not far from me, and he meets him on a regular basis. He said he's still fit, he still loves, and he and George Graham go there playing pitch and putt. I won't go any further with that, but it's in North London, and he says both guys are great friends. They live close to each other. And yeah, I, for one, the sort of basis of the modern Arsenal started when we had people like Frank as our centre back. Lovely player, never say die. And he'd suffered lots of cup final defeats. He played for Leicester before he joined us. And he kept arriving at Wembley and losing. And he never thought he'd ever lift a trophy. And in 71, he lifted the Premier League, or the First Division trophy as it was at the time, plus the FA Cup. So what we haven't got at the moment, you and I were chatting this morning, you look across the team, it's hard to find a captain of that quality. We had it in Tony Adams. You look across the team now, I can't see a lion. There was a famous quote I read recently. Napoleon said, if you have a team of dogs or an army of dogs, but one lion leading them, they will all fight like lions. But if you have a team of lions led by a dog, they'll all fight like dogs. So your most important player when they cross the line onto the pitch is a captain that leads by example. Personally, I like captains who talk. I just love them to be, clapping their hands, saying, come on, boys, and at the moment, I look around that Arsenal team and I don't see a lot of talking to each other. They've certainly talked to the media off the pitch and all kinds of other things. But I would like to see a captain in there, ideally defensive midfield or centre-back. At the moment, our kind of most lion-style player who plays with a lion heart is Tierney, but he isn't a centre-back. But I definitely feel if we had a really strong captain, like Frank was, then it would definitely gain us more points and it would gel the team together. I'm not sure we look at anybody in that team and are motivated, but I want to see a player who motivates all the other guys around him. That's what a captain should do.
But it's funny. So we did speak about Xhaka, didn't we? We said that the guys, for some reason, tend to gravitate towards Granit Xhaka, and that was one of the reasons why I think he was chosen as one of the captains under Unai Emery. But there are no clear candidates, James, as that captain.
No, I know times have changed and football has changed, but to go back on Frank McLintock, even though he was before my time, still one of the greatest captains the club's ever had. And I remember speaking to the legend that is Bob Wilson. I interviewed him a long time ago now, and he was telling me, I asked him about, the special double winning side of 71, and Bob Wilson told me that, it was Frank McLintock that kind of rallied the troops. Losing the League Cup final to Swindon in 69 and being cast as the shame of London and, the shame of North London in particular. And, that Arsenal is just an awful team and they should never have lost. Bob Wilson even said it was Frank McLintock that literally went round to every player and said, look, we've got to shove this down people's throats and then some. And then the basis for that 71 side was the defeat after the League Cup final against Swindon. And, such a great rally of troops, fantastic character as well. I mean, you think of the characters we had in that team that fought to the death, to create a double winning side that was very special. And it still remains one of the greatest teams and one of the greatest squads Arsenal have ever had. And, people would like to talk about 98 and 2002. But I mean, I stopped buying football replica shirts more than a decade ago now, but I wear my 71 Arsenal shirts with pride. And I often tell people here in the Netherlands when they see me wearing a shirt and they ask about it, I said it's before the days of the Invincibles in the Arsene Wenger era, 71 was often known as the greatest team to have ever played for Arsenal and what they achieved. And a very special man really. And like with Bob Wilson and Georgie Armstrong and the likes of Dennis Bergkamp and Thierry Henry, and David Rocastle, these are players that we are so proud to have played for our club. And you look at what we have now, times have changed a little bit, but we've got to get back to being more selective. The answer is closer to home. We've got an inexperienced manager. We've got an owner that doesn't really care. So we just have to get through these coming seasons, and then hopefully a new dawn will break. And then hopefully we can learn from our mistakes, because I, for one, will be absolutely gutted if Emile Smith-Rowe leaves, Balogun leaves, if Ballard or McGuinness leaves, because there's no need for it. Those four players should be in the first team squad at the expense of buying yet again a £30 million defender, spending lots of money on in positions we don't really need. And we just need to learn from our mistakes. But I can't see that happening until a new Bruin sweeps the club clean, really.
Okay, so that was the segments of this morning. Let's go into the live chat and see who has joined us. I've got Ashley D, who says, hey up, power to the Gunners. Man City versus Everton cancelled as Man City have Gabriel Jesus, Carl Walker and 2 staff members with coronavirus revealed on the 25th of December. The Shadow says, hope Arteta got the message from our young players. I hope so as well. I just hope he wakes up and smells a coffee. He needs to get rid of Willian and David Luiz. Our young guns showed passion and played for him. So how realistically do you think Arteta will get rid of Willian and David Luiz in the summer?
I think he's going to have to do it. I would personally like him to do it at this transfer window. David Luiz, when he's at his best, is a good player, but he always has mistakes in him, and he's obviously at the heart of some kind of a problem in the dressing room. Willian, well, I have no idea why Arsenal bought him. He had a fair game against Fulham, but after that he's been very, very poor. So I can't see Arteta getting rid of them now. He'll just let David Luiz's contract run down. But Willian, no, get him out. He's trouble. If he really wants to bite the bullet, Arteta, and he'd get the press on his back, but I'd lose both of them. I'd sell them both straight away. Saha scored again today, apparently, and a blinder. Somebody said in the morning segment, would you swap Pepe for him? Well, there you go. The man supports Arsenal. But there are these things. Arteta's going to have to be very, very brave, and these next 2 games are crucial. If he wins these next 2 and he wins them fairly convincingly, and he bloods these young players, then it gives him a kind of a roadmap really for how he's going to stay with us, keep the young players coming through, and be much more careful. We haven't really got this buying and selling of players at all suited. We sell them for almost nothing, or wait until their contract runs down, or we buy them for ridiculous amounts of money. I mean, even I've watched a lot of Pepe when he played for Lille. He's more of an inside forward than an outside than a winger. But even then, he doesn't look like a £72 million player. So something very strange went on there. And it's very interesting that the people involved in him arriving at Arsenal are no longer with us, i.e. Hustami and Raul. They're suddenly gone. And obviously, there's been all kinds of ructions. And I'd rather not get into that, brush it under the carpet, move on. But let's have what Leicester has. Leicester, for the last 7 or 8 years, have a fantastic recruitment team. They keep finding players that nobody ever seems to have heard of, the way George Graham did, of course, when he first came in. And he'd pick out these jewels that with a bit of training and a bit of know-how, suddenly you've got some fantastic players. And we're all looking now at people. We're looking at the fullback that plays for Brighton. We'll have a good look at him tomorrow. And then we're looking at Norwich players, so these guys are around. Maybe we should be looking and finding them a year before everybody else spots them.
James, we
and if I can just...
Yeah, go on, James. Yep, go on.
I just wanted to follow on what Terry said about Leicester. It starts at the top. Leicester have an owner that care. Leicester suffered a complete disaster and in a terrible tragedy, and they the son managed to take over from the father, and he's more than kept his promise in the fact of the club, the welfare of the club being looked after. Timothy Castagna, I knew of his time from when he was at Genk in Belgium. Fantastic player for Atalanta. They sold Ben Chilwell. They brought Timothy Castagna, who's a very good player. Dennis Praat came through the youth set up at Anderlecht. He's an excellent player, a really, really good, technically gifted player. And they brought him for a very good fee. Mark Albrighton as well. If anyone with a player's player that appreciates a good footballer and can understand what a good footballer is, even at his Aston Villa days, Mark Albrighton was an excellent player. And people often have a go at me by saying, Albrighton is not good enough to play for Arsenal. Albrighton's a Premier League winner. Mark Albrighton has achieved something that none of the previous Arsenal squads have done, and none of the future Arsenal squads will do, and that is play a huge part as an individual and in the collective of winning a Premier League title. And I just think Albrighton's a tremendous player. How he has not been capped by England, for me, is a complete mystery.
James, we're in need of an overhaul. We need a culture change at Arsenal. How long do you think it will take to have that cycle come about, and we have that change in culture at Arsenal? The recruitment, the players, and everything there. How long do you think it will take realistically?
I was talking this morning about Sir Alex Ferguson going from Aberdeen to United, and somebody in the chat said it took him 4 years before he turned them round. And I remembered United almost going down at the end of his first season. So none of these are quick fixes, and by the sounds of it, our recruitment system isn't working. Our scouting system, many of them have been sacked. So I would give it a minimum of 3 years. Even with Arteta, who I do rate as a very good coach, I think it's going to take a minimum of 3 years to get a team out there that are playing the way he wants Arsenal to play. 3 years minimum.
Oh, my goodness. I just worry about the fan base. The fan base don't have the appetite for patience.
Exactly. But they're going to have to learn at some point. They're going to have to learn. I mean, obviously, you two are elder statesmen in the fact of seeing more of Arsenal than what I have, having watched them firsthand since 1991. But like now, you just, as I said earlier on in the podcast, the younger generation seem to fawn over the latest player. Julian Brand is now the name. Last month it was Slobozai. Next month it will be somebody else. The month after that it will be somebody else. If Arsenal was to sign Dennis Praat or Mark Albrighton or Timothy Castagna, the fan base would be going bananas. But these are 3 excellent footballers who are making sure that Leicester are doing really well. I mean, look at Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes went on loan to West Brom last season. Went on loan to West Brom in a physical league, and he's come back to Leicester. He's playing, and he looks dangerous. He looks very dangerous, and this is what I mean about the loan management. I mean, I wouldn't have recalled Nketiah because to learn the team that went on to become the Championship winners and a massive club in Leeds, we've got to be very careful. And if we don't bite the bullet and make decisions that might be deemed unpopular, we could lose some very good players. And I worry about losing a Balogun, a Smith Rowe, a Ballard and McGuinness, because these are 4 players in particular that will go on to have tremendous careers. And who's to say that they won't go on to have tremendous careers at our competitors? Who's to say that won't happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dear. Don also says, how are you, Alex? I'm fine, my friend. Hope Arteta picks the players who played against Chelsea tomorrow, LTL.
Well, we spoke about that this morning. I mean,
It's not going to happen.
No, I wouldn't play Willian again. I wouldn't play Luizi again. And I'd make a clean break. They're obviously troublemakers. Their form is patchy, if non-existent. And I would make a clean break. And I wouldn't be frightened to. I mean, I know at the moment they say Arteta pulls people aside and has quiet words in their ear. I think sometimes you need to stand up in that dressing room and say to players, what you're doing isn't good enough, and grabbing hold of people by the throat and condemning us to lose yet 3 more points isn't good enough. It's just not good enough. And if the player is any decent kind of a man, he'd say, I'm sorry, I saw the red mist, and don't do it again, you know? So, yeah, I would now be very carefully blooding these young guys in, get Balogun in there in the next match. Lacazette has played very well in that lone number 9 role. Let's give him a rest. Let's put Balogun on either at the start or halfway through. Let's blood these guys. Emile Smith-Rowe, I don't want to burn him out, but he looks one heck of a player. Martinelli, again, he's only coming back from a massive injury, so I don't want him to play for more than 45 minutes in our next game, because the guy covers ground at breakneck speed, and we've already had a slight skirmish when he got his shin caught by the goalkeeper's boot. So, you know, be careful. Just be careful about the way these young boys are being played, but definitely play them and shake up these guys who've been around for a long time. And, of course, finally, the one I would definitely get rid of tomorrow is Xhaka. I don't rate him. And I don't see what he brings to the team. Yes, he's got a sweet left foot, but I'm sorry, he only uses that about once every dozen matches, and the rest of the time he's slow to turn. He rugby tackles players. It's just madness. This isn't football. And put out athletes as well, because the way the game is being played in the Premier League now, you need some real athletes, and we have some good athletes. We have Willock. Excellent athlete, excellent box-to-box player. All right, his first touch isn't great yet, and his control isn't great, but it will come, and he won't learn by shoving him back into the under-23s. You've got to blood these guys. And finally, I would definitely put Ainsley Maitland-Niles in that central midfield spot, and if and when Partey becomes fit again, I'd put those 2 as our pivots. They complement each other. And you can see that we've got the core of a cracking team. If we mix some of the guys that are performing well, like Tierney and Gabriel and so on, mix them in with some of these young boys, and we will shake teams up, especially if we bring in forwards that people haven't played against before. It's working with Martinelli. It will work with Balogun. I'm sure it will. And I just hope that if we do blood him, I do hope he scores a lot, but I hope he enjoys playing for us and then is prepared to say, well, look, I'm enjoying it here. I've got mates here. I'll sign. But it doesn't look like that, unfortunately.
James, Mark McGuinness, he's at Ipswich, isn't he? Is it Ipswich?
Yeah, and Daniel. Yeah, Mark McGuinness is at Ipswich and Daniel Ballard is at Blackpool. They're both individually doing really well. I think Arsenal need to draft him into the first team squad next season. Otherwise, we end up losing them, I think. And, you know, they're 2... Ipswich is a big club still. You know, for Ballard's already been capped at international level. I personally think... I think the horse has bolted with Balogun, unfortunately. But I think with Smith-Rowe, Ballard and McGuinness, you've got to... Next season, they've got to be... squad members. They've got to be important squad members that play games, even in League Cups, FA Cups, Europe, if we manage to qualify, which I don't think we will actually, but that they are involved in games. even if it's cameo substitute appearances in the Premier League. We've got nothing to lose. We need to stop this grandeur of a run for top 4 or European football. We're nowhere near good enough for European football at the minute, and I think that Benfica will score us in February, both in Lisbon and in London. And I think it'll be our last European game for some time. So rather than the moan about not being in the Champions League and moan about not being in the Europa League, even when some fans like to talk down about certain opponents, let's galvanise. Let's get a good squad together, a good mix of youth and experience, and let the young players play.
Yeah, here. Neil Isaac says, sell Hector Bellerin for £15 million. Saïd Kolasinac for £5 million. Sokratis £5 million. Mustafi £10 million. £10 million for. Are you sure about that? I disagree with that. Xhaka £15 million. Willian between £10 and £60 million.
No, if you add all those up, you should get 60 million.
Oh right, okay. Oh yeah, equals. Yeah, sorry. Buy Vieira £20 million. Coutinho.
Oh.
No. Brandt £15 million. Pellegrin £20 million. Ruiz Silva, wash your hands, should equal 75. Listen, the answer is closer to home. We don't have to be going out across Europe. Look at the youngsters coming through the youth setup. Well, anyway. Bronze Dosser says a better comparison for Balogun would be Daniel Manel. Gnabry confidence was shaken by his loans for Pulis. Yeah. Not never.
See,
I've heard some.
To put Gabri in with Pulis is a disaster, and we all know what Pulis does. He's done it at so many clubs. So whoever's in charge of loaning players out needs to do their homework. Gnabry is a lovely player, but the worst manager you could possibly think of playing him with is Pulis. Madness.
God, dear me. Sorry, James. Did you want to say something, James? Sorry.
Talking of Daniel Marlon, I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans hope that they will get him back from PSV. He is improving, but he's also had a terrible knee injury. And, he was operated on, I believe, last January, and he managed to make his comeback. But, he's still very young and sustained a terrible knee injury already. So people were saying, we should buy him, we should buy that. We need to start looking at injuries. We need to start looking at previous and really edge our bets, because this isn't fantasy football we're talking about here. This is real life football. And as I've said, having spoken to many professional players and managers at all different levels, not every transfer is a pot of gold at the end of every rainbow.
Yeah. I never understood why there was no partnership with Watford in the past. It's a 10-minute walk. It's a 10-minute walk. Thanks for that, Ashton. Santiago, buenas noches. ¿Cómo va? Good evening, Alex, James, and Eltel. Such good information and insights, so eloquently put by you guys. Keep up the good work. Merry Christmas to you all, and the same to you. Igualmente, a ti.
Same to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Lovely. Yeah.
Ashidi says, hey up, let's give Cannon Fodder a thumbs up and subscribe before the new year. Actually, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much indeed. I think the fans will turn on Arteta if he sticks Willian back on. Oh, please. When Xmas Corona suddenly disappears.
I'll tell you, boys, there's something very strange going on. We heard today that Willian and Luizi were exhibiting with coronavirus symptoms, but the club hadn't checked them. Now, one of the neighbours popped into our local library, and they've got a walk-in place where you can have your coronavirus test. Okay, so that's definitely baloney. There's no way Arsenal don't carry spare tests, and there's no way they can't get them turned round. This woman near me got hers turned round in under an hour. So that will point to you that maybe there is arguments and trouble. Maybe the two guys have sulked and won't play. I have no idea. But, if they started sulking and I were the manager, I'd drop them straight away. There's no place for sulking.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have signed him full stop, and one of them got a contract extension.
Oh,
One of them was on the verge of leaving the club, but oh
Yeah.
no, we'll give him a contract extension. That
Job for the
tells
boy.
you all you need to know.
Job for the boy.
Tells you. I reiterate what I've said on many different podcasts here and on different platforms. Until a new owner comes in with a new methodology, intent on building this club up brick by brick, and a new owner that has the courage to say, no, we've already got 11 defenders. What do we need a 12th for? No, we're not going to sign any more midfielders, or we're not getting anybody in the academy. No, I'm not going to sanction that move for that £300,000 a week player, because once he's got his money, he's demotivated and he's not interested. So until we get an owner who's not frightened to make what can be seen as unpopular decisions, I can't see Arsenal making any progress mid to long term.
Yeah, it won't happen. It won't happen. Ashton comes back and says, Overmars is still the club's highest sale. Raul Sanheli is the type of guy to sell you a three-legged rocking horse.
very true.
I think with Overmars, being based in Amsterdam, of course, and I can't tell people this enough. People that think that the job that Mark Overmars has done at Ajax, that was his first job in that role, that's not true. He did exactly the same at the club he used to play for and the club he finished his career at in Go Ahead Eagles, who are a well-respected Dutch club currently playing in the first division. I think it's a little bit too convenient to think that Overmars will turn up at Arsenal. It wouldn't surprise me if he has a little bit of a rest first and then decides where he wants to go. But be aware that should Overmars turn up at Arsenal, there will be no buy. There will be a fine-tooth comb over the entire squad. And you're dealing with someone who is immensely intelligent. I mean, one thing I've come to understand living in Mark Overmars is City and obviously the country of the Netherlands as well. You all know him as a footballer. We all know him as a footballer, but the local knowledge, the man is extremely intelligent, is extremely sharp, and it's no surprise that he's doing really well in his current role at Ajax in such a capacity.
Yep.
Arsenal need to man up and admit they got it wrong with Willian and take him down the job centre. Well, that's going to happen anytime soon. Ola Donkey says Partey and Ainsley Maitland-Niles together in front of the back four. Brilliant.
Yep.
Yeah, but Ainsley Maitland-Niles doesn't get chosen to play any games really in the Premier League. So there's a lot more of Mohamed El-Neni. Sorry.
And there's also room. Sorry, Tel.
No, I was just going to say, when managers are under pressure, which Arteta is and his backroom team, one of the nice things about football is that we can often, because we aren't under pressure, we're football fans and we're watching what's going on. We can see things that the person who's, if you like, right behind the eight ball, right down the sort of gunnels of trouble and pressure can't see. And I presume he's so worried about losing matches, he doesn't want to start reorganising his central midfield or his central defensive midfield. And he's done everything with Ainsley except play the man where he feels he plays better. And you should listen to players, whatever role you're in life. If you've got people that are working for you and they've got an idea, boss, I'd be far better off if you let me do that. Sometimes you should let the horse have its head. You should say, okay, go for it. And he's not doing that now because he's feeling under such stress and such pressure. But from a distance, so many people say, yes, Ainsley's a box to box. He loves it. He can do the whole lot. He can mark players. He can run into space. He's got an engine. He's got fantastic stamina, ball skills, close skills, real pace. He's got everything you need. And instead of playing him as he should be doing in central midfield, eating up all those green spaces that our current guys can't do because they aren't athletes, they aren't runners. He does the very thing he shouldn't do, which is he puts him everywhere else. He puts him as a left wing back, he puts him as a right back, he puts him as a right wing back, put the guy alongside Partey, and then with some of the young boys coming through, you've got a cracking team coming through.
But Terry, is it not easier to be the backseat driver when you can see things are going wrong? Oh, turn left, turn right. I mean, we can see what should happen, but the manager always seems to be the last person to see what's about to happen. Why does he not see that? It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I do. I think there's always a place in soccer for having an assistant, and maybe the BFG is doing this, maybe per Mertesacker is doing this. You need somebody to look at it from a different perspective. I know before Freddie left, they gave him a few games where he would sit up in the stands and literally physically see the game from a different perspective. I always think when you have a manager on the touchline, he's not going to see quite what somebody would see with a vantage point up in the stands, and that's like physically. Mentally, it's similar. You need somebody that can see what's going on and give you some ideas. And what you don't want is a yes person. That's the big danger. I wonder how much Arteta's being told by Steve Round and Stuyvenberg, yes, you're doing a great job, and nod. If you have somebody who keeps nodding, he's useless to you. You need somebody who's going to challenge you and say, I've seen another way to do this. But as you say, it's hard when you're the person whose job depends on it, and you're making it's so dangerous that when you're managing something, you're making all the decisions. Arteta has said that the buck stops with me. Well, you need some of the people around you that you can trust to help you and to tell you things maybe you don't want to hear. I wonder, is there anybody there telling him, why don't you try Ainsley in central midfield? He's got all the attributes. He's got them there. Try him. Try him in a training match. Try him any way you like. I think we've stumbled upon, in the last match, quite a good team. We've got Martinelli on the left-hand side. We've got Laka down in the middle, kind of he loves the fight and the push and the shove. We've managed to put Saka on the right-hand side, which when he first played there, he didn't look too good. He's playing well now there. So we're beginning to stumble into what looks like a good team. He's got to keep that going, and he's got to try players like Ainsley in that central midfield, I think.
We'll take a quick pause for the cause. I've got Eltel, the original Godfather. I've got James Rowe with me on the evening segment, just going over some Arsenal news and getting insightful, having another footballing lesson with my two friends. James, any up and coming interviews you can actually tell us about, if you don't mind?
Of course. Upcoming interviews on the Secret Footballer would include East Fife manager Darren Young, also played for the club as well. Henk Wisman, a Dutch manager who also managed Armenia in the Armenian national team against the Netherlands. That's also a very interesting story. On Football CFB, the likes of Andrew Barrowman, who Birmingham City supporters may well know, and he was in and around Birmingham's team when they first got promoted to the Premier League many years ago, and also some surprises coming up. I'm very excited about the start of 2021. There's some really, really interesting pots and pans bubbling away, and very excited. And I think 2021 is going to be a very good year.
I will try and remember to put James's Twitter handle link in the description box. Sky's the limit, James. Sky's the limit. Since you've left the other format there, it's just like you. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It's one thing I'm really pleased about is my interview with Tom Border was released on the Secret Footballer yesterday, and a lot of people were quite shocked that you're putting an interview with a player who plays in the German third division, and they described it somewhat as very niche. And and one person even said to me, I'm not sure there's much of a market for that. And I said, it's not about that. I said, you need to understand that the interview was conducted in his mother tongue. And he also played for Gent in Belgium. And he also played for FC Twente. And every professional footballer has a story to tell. And, I can't quite believe the journey of the last 4.5 years. It's been absolutely amazing. We're nowhere near finished yet, But you know, when I go about my daily life and daily routine, and you're checking your emails, and you get an email from the press officer of a club who's recently just reached the last 16 of the Champions League about speaking to one of their players, then you know you're doing something right.
Yeah, well done. Long may it continue. Long may it continue.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed.
Can I ask James a question? James, I'd love to ask the players something. At the moment, because we don't have crowds there, you can hear Arteta constantly directing players, move into this space, go back there, and so on. And I'm sure that's the same all around Europe. I'd love to know what players think about that. Do they find it helpful, or do they find it damn annoying? I suspect it's a bit of both. But you know, I worry. I do like Arteta as a coach, and I think he can shout as much as he likes and do all kinds of stuff back at the training ground. But I wonder whether he overdoes it a bit. And it would annoy me if I was scanning to look for who to pass it to, and then somebody on the sideline is telling me, pass it to this guy. And then I've got to stop thinking, using my train of thought and trying to find the guy he's talking about. And I'll be interested if you, as and when you're talking to players, now that they have the sort of coaches on the side barking orders and instructions and whatever, I'll be interested, do they find it helpful? I mean, they'll have to be careful because they don't want their current manager to see it, but maybe they could talk generally about it and say, is it in general helpful, or does there come a point where it doesn't serve to help at all? It just confuses people. Yeah.
I'll see what I can do going forward. Obviously, all interviews I do, they have their own rhythm. Also, interviewing in different languages as well, in English, Dutch, and Spanish, depending on the player or the manager. Some managers are more talkative than others, and for me, it's always about the story. Like, if I can give you a little bit of a sneak preview, Henk Wisman, who you know is a Dutch manager, managed Fortuna Sittard here in the Netherlands, managed the Armenian national team against his country. And I asked him to give people a little bit of a sneak preview. I said to him, as a Dutchman, what was it like for you to manage a national team against your own country? He said, well, I can tell you it's a very, very strange and surreal situation. But it's also a situation which gives you a massive kick. And he said, you know, to look across his opposite dugout and to see Marco van Basten coaching the Dutch national team. And they set up in a way to try and get something out of the game. And these kind of little bits of information are also vitally important. You know, it's not always about the big names. I mean, I'm closing in on nearly 300 interviews with professional players and managers at all different levels of world football. And I'm extremely proud to look back on such a great portfolio. But I treat everybody the same. There is no difference between speaking to Bob Wilson, Jamie Carragher, Simon Barker, Danny Cowley, Graham Potter, or if I'm speaking to a Dutch player playing his trade in Switzerland or in Sweden or in Denmark. You know, I always say that everyone has a story to tell, and it's about, you know, making sure that you write the best piece that you can write. And yeah, I'd like to think that each interview brings me a little bit closer. And as I say, to get correspondence today from a club that's just reached the Champions League last 16 and are going really well in their domestic league is a real good feather in the cap.
Wow. Brilliant. Yeah.
James, you can speak 4 languages, can't you, James? 4? 3,
yes.
4?
English is my mother tongue. Dutch is my second language, having been based here in the Netherlands for 15 years nearly. And it really is great when you speak to Dutch players in particular to interview them in their mother tongue. And I'm really pleased with the Secret Footballer in particular, with the new audience, that they're realising that Dutch interviews that are released released in English, they're conducted in Dutch, of course, but they realise with the depth of the piece that obviously the interview was conducted in Dutch, which is good. Spanish is my third language, and my best subject at school was French. So yeah, I speak a tiny little bit of Portuguese as well, but yeah, who knows what the future will bring. Hopefully a professional club is looking, and to be part of the media team of a professional club is the end goal, because people often talk about, you know, working for like a big media company, I want to be that person who, when a player arrives at a club, I mean, I would love, like, for example, if you're working for a professional football club and you have a Dutch player coming in to sign for the club and all his family are there, and you're able to reassure them in their mother tongue about what's going to happen today, and for them to completely understand everything. And I could well be a part of a press officer team of an English club or a Spanish club, but I think that would be quite special. But I've been here for such a long time here in the Netherlands, and I still enjoy it. It's still as my mother always said, it's the best decision I ever made, and she's right. I won't make a better one in life. And this country's far from perfect, but it's a country which has been very good to me over the years, and it's great to be able to give back even in a hobby sense, where even the Dutch players and managers, they're interviewed in their mother tongue, and their story gets published and shown to the world.
Yeah. Long may it continue, James. Let me go back into the live chat and see if I can wrap up this one in double quick time. I've got Alan Sutcliffe, who says Wenger would never sign anyone over the age of 30 on more than a year's contract. Yeah, we would never have seen the likes of David Luiz, Willian. Arsenal never learned the lesson. And I guess, Sven Mislintat, when he left, he sent a shot across Arsenal's bowels. He said, Arsenal is a complete mess. And he got it right. Yeah, we are we're in the mire at the moment.
Yes.
Let's see.
And how well is he doing at Stuttgart? He's leading a Stuttgart side that just absolutely battered Dortmund 5-1. James, doing very, very well. This
James, how was Emery doing?
Season. Exactly. Undefeated in 19 games, players that actually respect him, and it's not all about them. And but we will always be in the minority regarding Unai Emery. And fingers crossed, I might be able to shine some more light on what actually happened in 2021.
Yeah. What's my point of reference? Okay. Oops. Where are we? William is not our problem. The problem we have is the people that brought him to Arsenal.
Exactly. But I think that's true. We've got this Kia Jarabrian hanging around. We've got Edu. He's Edu's agent. He's Willian's agent. It's all a little bit. It shouldn't. You shouldn't have the guy that's buying him for Arsenal being on the same books as the player's agent. So there's a lot of question marks there. It doesn't look right. It doesn't smell right, and we just need to get in a good negotiator in. Obviously, we've lost Husfami in terms of the final contract part of it. So goodness knows who they've got in that role. I don't think Vinay can do it all. And we probably need somebody in who knows the game inside out and can, it's all about having the personality to phone up different chairmen, phone up, other clubs and be kind of known to them and talk it through and finding a way of bringing the conversation round to a certain player. And I know Wenger didn't like working with agents because they are the guys who are creaming off unnecessarily, I think. So yeah, it is suspicious because, as we said in the morning segment, Willian looks as though he really doesn't want to be out on that pitch. He obviously doesn't like wearing the red and white of Arsenal. Well, we didn't force him. So, let's put him out of his misery and let him go off somewhere else,
Actually, here's a good one. Casino Player 12 says, it's understandable Kroenke doesn't invest in players right now. Let's be honest. Will you trust your money to a manager at Arsenal who are in 15th place, James?
I don't think he's looking at whether we're in 15th place or 5th. He only sees Arsenal as a long-term safeguarded investment, where so long as he is the owner, he makes money. And that's the most important thing for him.
Put Overmars on a train or plane to London. It's not going to happen.
There is a train these days, although it's quite expensive. But no, as I say, I mean, if there is any news here in the Netherlands, I'll be the first to tweet out and say what I know. But I just think it's a little bit too convenient. I will be very surprised if he was to go straight from Ajax to Arsenal. And even Manchester United might swoop in and try to get him. You never know.
Oh no. Oh, no. And Balogun off to Liverpool. Can it get any worse?
Yeah.
Last few. Who else do we have here? Let's try and give them. Didn't Arteta play for Tottenham? No, he didn't.
I know who he's talking about. Venables. He's talking about Venables, who very nearly managed Arsenal, of course. So, but over the years, lads, unfortunately, there have been players that have gone either from Tottenham to Arsenal or Arsenal to Tottenham. The most recent high-profile one, I suppose, being Sol Campbell. But even Herbert Chapman played as a fullback for Spurs before he sort of managed Arsenal. So the players have gone backwards and forwards. They are all mates, of course. There's a particular pub in a place called Totteridge in North London where they all used to meet before people like Wenger persuaded them, if they're going to go out for a drink, don't make it obvious. So a lot of the players are pals anyway. They and they're unfortunately, when you buy a player at the end of his career, he's being a bit of a mercenary, isn't he? He's looking at his pension, and to me, if you're going to start buying players, you buy them young, you buy them hungry, and you teach them to really love the Arsenal way, and then those players like Dixon and so on stay with you.
Here's one for you, James. Translator Arsenal, James. Make some calls, Alex. Get him in. I don't pull the strings at Arsenal.
Yeah, no, it would be very nice. No, I am very pleased and very encouraged how on my LinkedIn profile I've been seeing a lot of professional clubs looking, which is fantastic, and I just hope they're not shy, because when you see that. And it gives you a lot of confidence, but it's also, this has been a journey of 4.5 years in the making, where you're now going over a threshold of 300 interviews and dealing with everybody within a football club, technical directors, chairmen, managers, players, physios, referees, and I'd like to think that I've sown the seeds through the years, and the reputation is starting to precede me a little bit, which is great, but I always say the next one's always the most important, and that one will be for me on Tuesday, the 5th of January.
Yeah. Is an interesting one. Norris Bird said, Geezer. Who's the geezer speaking? What a legend. Well, there's two legends here. Take your pick.
Three.
Oh, no, two. There's two. And let's give one last person here. Okay, let's go for this one then. Chris says, chairman, over recent seasons at Arsenal have invested plenty of money in our squad, wasted £72 million on Pepe, £35 million on Mustafi, the same for Xhaka. Dear. Arsenal never learn their lesson. They never learn their lesson. Guys, we'll come to an end. On this Monday evening over here, at least. Anyway, so just almost 7:45. 7:45 over here in the UK. I've got to say thank you again, James. Quality, absolute quality, mate.
You're more than welcome, and look forward to next time.
Brilliant. And Eltel again. Thank you.
Well, it's been great seeing yourself, Alex and James there, and hopefully Arsenal will pull a win out of it tomorrow.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. Anyway, I will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. UK time, hopefully with Eltel, Richard Godfather again. And later on tomorrow evening, I'll be doing another post-game reaction. Yeah, we're playing against Brighton. Graham Potter's. Yeah, Brighton against Arsenal. God damn me. I can already foresee what's going to happen.
I interviewed him when he was Osterson's manager. It's funny how the world works. I interviewed him when he was Osterson's manager, and tomorrow he's going to be facing Arsenal. And I remember, I'll leave people with this. I interviewed Graham Potter after the Osterson's Arsenal match in 2018, I believe it was. And I remember him telling me about that. They knew that the Derby defeat that Tottenham had inflicted on Arsenal had really hurt Arsenal. And I was also at the Osterson's game. And I had Graham Potter telling me that, that he they couldn't get that third goal that they needed. You know, they were 2-0 up in that game, and they really did smell blood. And I remember him telling me in that interview I believe it was March 2018, that, you know, he harboured ambitions of getting Ostersund into the Champions League. He had no ambitions to return to the UK at that time. But it's great to see, you know, someone who I'd interviewed a long time ago go on to become a fully fledged Premier League manager. And obviously I'm not going to become a Premier League manager, but maybe part of a press officer team of a professional club in England would be very nice. So it's worked out for Graham Potter, and I'm hoping it'll work out for me too.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. Yeah.
Yeah. Elton, have you not got any contacts, you know, to help out James? You know, contacts
well, you know, just thinking about people and players and ex-pupils that I used to have, many of whom are working for Arsenal still, even after the cull. So, you know, James, I'll put the word out for you.
Thank you.
You never know.
You never know. In the words of Alex, there's always somebody watching. And what you can do is just keep your dignity, and we shall see what happens.
James, there's still 3 more days to go, mate.
Yeah, it'll be like 11:55 on the 31st, I think. We shall see.
All right, brilliant. So, like I said, I'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. with Eltel with some more live segment news, and we'll take it from there. And if by chance there's some new viewers watching, they're thinking, "What's this cannon fodder?" Make sure you subscribe, because we don't want you to miss out. If you miss out, you won't see any of the segments. Yes. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification button so you can receive all the latest news right here on this wonderful channel called Cannon Fodder TV. Until then, I shall see you tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. UK time.